Hello, everyone. We're here with Jamey Stegmaier, designer of many games, Viticulture Scythe, Charterstone.
Wingspan.
Listen,
close enough.
So that I do have a question about later. But so yeah, I just introduced Dan to Wingspan just an hour ago.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome to Wingspan, Dan.
Oh, thank you. I feel like you can spread my wings, but I can't.
Please stop. Don't embarrass us in front of the cool guy.
So
I'm trying to get on a date with him. So
Yeah.
So he's been fangirling since the second you responded to the email.
Well, I was really excited. Well, like I've seen your videos and everything, and you're incredibly prolific in just the content you release, be it your blog or your YouTube videos and all that. So let's start off by saying, have you ever thought of doing like a masterclass or even like a TED Talk or something? You know, like something a little like a longer format kind of deal for game designers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have thought about it a little bit, but what I like about my videos, what makes me kind of enjoy the videos, the blogs, is that I don't have to plan much for it. I just kind of sit down and go. And with the blogs, at least, I can revise it later if I change my mind about something or if I want to revise it in any way. The videos, I can't do that as easily, but as you've probably seen in my videos, they're all one-take videos. And that makes it sustainable for me to keep doing it. And so
for sure,
those master classes, I think they put a lot of time and effort into
I could imagine, yeah.
And you run 3 podcasts, is that right?
3, yes.
3. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are in the basement of our formerly haunted house right now.
Okay.
Welcome.
We had an exorcism in 2018 and we haven't had anything going on here since.
Everything's clean. It's okay.
Wow.
Virtually clean.
Yeah.
And 100% clean.
So I don't know if you're a believer, but yeah, like the things, because I say to my students when I tell these stories, like, sure, you may not believe, but believe that it happened. If there's a scientific explanation, great. Yeah. Like I would love to find it eventually, but until then, we know what happened, and we have an explanation for it.
I use it in my, I'm a teacher too. So like I use it in my English class and I say, there's a difference between fiction and nonfiction, and there's, fantasy, but how do you go from fantasy, from nonfiction to fantasy? And it's the idea that you're telling stories, and those stories can be misconstrued or they can be changed. So you end up getting, fiction from actual nonfiction. So for us, this house is nonfiction. If they want to add on to it, make their own little story or a movie or, a board game out there by a really cool guy who's good looking, that's totally fine. I'll give you some ideas.
I'll get right on that.
Wasn't talking to you, Dan. But I think it's a good example of like, if we lived nonfiction, but you might think it's fiction now. And that's the difference there.
Yeah.
Sorry, so
I'm so curious now, but is there a certain episode I should go listen to
the first
learn?
4 are
first 4
episodes 2, 3, and 4 are our house stories.
Yeah, the first one is our sister-in-law Laura and Ray, our brother-in-law Ray. We both had haunted houses, so I wanted to make the podcast because I just found that our story was very interesting, and I think it's applicable to a lot of people who and maybe have had things happen, but they didn't have a way to explain it. So it's called the Wellhouse Exorcism because our basement has, I'm looking at it, has a well.
There's a well in the floor of our basement.
It's cool.
Oh, okay.
And it's very important to why there's activity on the property.
So you got to listen to the 3-part series.
Yeah. So
awesome. I will. I'm hooked. Yeah. I'm so curious now. That's
After
awesome.
that, I just spent time discussing things in Pennsylvania. Oh, you're from Indiana, right?
Missouri.
I'm from, I'm in Missouri. Yeah, I'm in St. Louis now. I'm from Virginia, but I'm in
there you go. So you know Pennsylvania.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Cool. So I do a lot of local stuff. We just did a Pennhurst series. We're going into Gettysburg. So
that
kind of stuff. I do a lot of research. Nice. I'm an English teacher.
So I want to start off by saying our listeners are probably confused as to why we have one of the biggest names in board games on our podcast, because we've been focusing on independent designers and just getting their names out there and everything. Yeah. And the reason why I thought it was so important for you to be on here is because you were one of them, like, with Viticulture, really kickstarting, pun intended, kickstarting you and really getting you like to where you are today, and how you don't use Kickstarter anymore. And so I thought, you sharing your words of wisdom, and through my research, getting ready for this interview, just seeing that, like you have blogs on, your whole procedure and everything, and like lessons you learned from it and everything. So how did you get your first inspiration for Viticulture? Like how did that first game come to being?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was looking for a theme that I thought would appeal to gamers and non-gamers alike. And I came up with winemaking because I know that, there's lots of great farming games that gamers are Euro gamers at least are interested in. And I thought the kind of the romanticism around running a vineyard could work well as a theme is. And so I went with that. And what I learned through the viticulture campaign is that most of the people who backed it or were interested in it were gamers who happened to like wine or were just gamers who liked farming themes. The campaign drew very few people who weren't already gamers but liked wine. And so that was a good early lesson for me to realize, like, if I'm going to make a game, like especially a middleweight Euro game, that like Wingspan has crossed over into birders, which is great. I love that birders are becoming gamers as a result of it. But I think that's an anomaly. I don't think that happens with most games.
Yeah, especially Euro style games. It's usually more thematic type, story driven games, not so much these puzzly type games really cross over like that. So I think that's incredible. What the common theme I've noticed with Stegmaier games, and major props to you for, is every time I open the box, I know I'm in for something special. The components are fantastic. Something about the ink you use too, it just smells really good when you open the box.
I don't think he actually does the inking, but
but I mean, just like no other game, makes us feel that way. When we open the box, Scythe was the first time I ever painted minis because the game demanded it. And I
demanded it so much that he's spent money on the special type of paints and brushes.
It wasn't special paints, it was brushes.
And the lighting thing you had, and the thing to hold minis. I mean,
I just used the dollar paints, the acrylics from Walmart, but it turned out fantastic.
Oh, they did look great.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the quality of your stuff is amazing. We were just looking at the rule book there for Wingspan, and it's the
texture of the
texture
book
is so tactile. It feels so cool.
So where did that idea come from of just like high quality components? What led you to that? Where instead making a cheaper game that you can market at like Target for $40 or something, but you'd rather have that luxury feel to it.
I think that just comes from my love of games that do that. Like there are plenty of Euro games that I love that just use cubes for everything, but when they go out of their way to have custom meeples or custom, like in viticulture, the little custom buildings, things like that. That enhances the experience for me. It makes me
for sure.
It's more immersive, I think, to have something that looks like the actual thing than not. And the textures too. That's something I discovered with Between Two Castles, I think was the first game that had that, where I was like, I don't need to make the rule books out of the same material that everyone does. Why not try a different material? And we've done that ever since, because I really like that. Not everyone likes it. I would say like 90% of people like it, and 10% of people really don't like it because
I prefer
it just doesn't feel. Oh yeah, I prefer it. It feels luxurious to me.
Exactly, it feels rich.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, we mentioned we're teachers, right? So we're poor, but we got into podcasting because we love gaming. So did you have a different job before you became a gamer, or did you always see yourself becoming a board game designer?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a childhood dream, but I didn't even know it could be a job. I thought maybe it could be a hobby that maybe if I got lucky, I would be published. And so I decided to take luck out of it to a certain extent and just publish my own game with viticulture and become a self-publisher. And we published games like Wingspan from other designers as well. So I did have two jobs before this. I worked as a project manager at a medical textbook publishing company for 4 years after college. And then I worked at I was kind of a director of operations at a facility at the university that I attended for a few years as well. I went to school in St. Louis at Washington University. Yeah. Did you all, when you grew up, did you want to be a teacher? Was that your hope?
I have my own story about that. How about you, PJ?
I wanted to be a train engineer. So the first thing I did when he got me a VR headset was I bought a train game.
Nice.
So my story is I love being a teacher. So I'm glad this happened. I really say it's kismet, but our old counselor was very sexist, and so I was top of the class. I was in the top section of my class, and so he would call us all down and talk to the top 5 and say, like, what are your plans because you're going somewhere? And at the time I lived in a single wide trailer. My parents were divorced. My mom and my stepdad did not make a lot of money, so I was like, I'm already a training manager at Burger King. I think I'm just going to stay there and work my way up and become like a some kind of like district manager or something. And he said, you're wasting your time because you can go to college and you can get scholarships and blah, 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 blah. I said, well, then what do I even go to college for? Because I have no idea. Like, I wasn't thinking about that. He says, well, you're really smart. How about you be a teacher or a nurse? And so you have to like think about that. Like, oh yeah, that's 1950s. All right. So I was like, well, I don't like blood. So all right, teacher it is. Like, that's literally what happened. And he said, well, what kind of teacher do you want to apply to be? And I'm like, I don't know. What should I do? He's like, well, what are you good at? No, I'm like, I'm in the top percentile of the class. Like, I'm good at everything. So be more specific. So I chose English. It wasn't like, it was an easy job. I thought I could do it really well. I had a teacher that I loved. She just made English so much fun. Shout out to Mrs. Saylor. She's listening. I'm sure she is. We're friends on Facebook. So that's where I kept, but then like I loved gifted education. So like later I went back, I'm still in college. I'm getting my PhD, but I went back and I got my LOE in gifted because I teach gifted now 7 through 12.
Oh yeah. Do either of you use games in the classroom?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, I run a tabletop club and we go every Thursday.
I run manga club at my school, but my gifted kids play board games, and I always do the big board game thing at the end of the year. So
yeah, the kids love the games I bring in and everything like that.
They keep asking me to start a D&D club because you have one. They hear stories. I'm like, listen, no, I don't have that kind of time. I'm doing a PhD, sweetheart.
And I'm the boring one. I'm an actor.
Yep.
Oh, you're the boring one.
Oh God, it's him.
He's one of those.
That's okay. Stephen Coker liked you.
Oh yeah, because we were on the same coast there for a while.
Yeah,
and they're both like theater people, so they understood each other in the struggle. So anyway, back to your board games. So out of all the games you've made, which one is your favorite?
Ooh.
Do you have like?
It's hard to choose.
Yeah,
come on.
One question I was gonna say is
one.
like some game designers say like never make any of them your baby because if if you have to cut it or if it doesn't.
Yeah.
If people don't like it as much as you want them to like it, then bad things can happen.
I feel like board games are like children. They always ask which one's your favorite, and you go, I don't have a favorite.
But you secretly do.
I'm not gonna tell you one just because my kids will watch this one day, but I have a favorite. Actually, they're all my favorites in different ways.
But anyways,
and that one I would say is the same for games. Like Wingspan behind you. Wingspan's the best-selling game, and so it's had a very positive impact on us as a company. Beautiful. And so it's great for that reason. I'm glad that it's given careers to Elizabeth and to the artist Charterstone. It's our only campaign game other than the Scythe expansion.
You can't see the legacy
Scythe
right there.
And Scythe, yeah.
We may own like all of your games. I don't know. There's Scythe there.
There's still so many on one.
And Rolling Realms is the one I played the most because I can just play that. I play that one on camera. I just play it. I play a round of it and put it up on YouTube because people can play along anytime. So I played that one the most.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So and there are a bunch of games that we published that I didn't design. So I'm really proud of like what those designers accomplished in those designs, and it's been fun to work for me to work on them as a developer as well. So
for sure.
So which one's your favorite?
Different reasons. So
were any of them like a true labor of love, or have all of them been that way? I feel like from a consumer standpoint, like they have such attention to detail and everything that it feels like they all must be for you.
When I learned that you were the creator of all of these, I kind of looked at PJ and went, you're lying. There's no way. They're so detailed. I would never imagine someone did all those different games.
Yeah.
So kudos to you. That's like just a compliment.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, they're all labor of love. And that's really like if a game is submitted to us and I don't fall in love with that game, I'm not going to publish it, which is it's very restricting. Like we miss out on probably a lot of great games that way, but I want to put everything I have into a game if I'm going to make it great or try to make it great. So whether it's my design or someone else's design, it has to be something I love.
Mm-hmm. So that's something that I wanted to touch on. We were talking about while we were playing Wingspan. My favorite game so far that I've played of yours is Scythe. By far, hands down, it is my favorite because you get so much free reign as to do what you want. And as we were talking, because we just did a podcast before talking about Wingspan, we brought up Scythe, how it feels natural. You don't go and attack each other for the sake of attacking each other. If you have a conflict, it is a natural conflict. You're in my spot. You're taking a resource that I require. There's going to be some kind of fighting. But with that, having said that, when it comes to games that you just publish, how much influence do you have over those? Like Wingspan, we notice that it's very natural. It's very organic. Things just happen. Everything is laid out in a straight line, so to speak. And how much of that was your input into the game and how the game kind of plays out?
Yeah, like how much influence did you have with helping Elizabeth, or was it pretty much like done when you got your hands on it?
Yeah, I have a pretty heavy hand in the games that we publish. I certainly can't take credit for nearly all the clever things that you find in our games, or the things that help games flow or feel immersive. A lot of that comes from the designers. But like for Wingspan, when Wingspan was originally pitched to us, it was a very basic game. It was just bird cards, and you accumulated some resources and tried to play bird cards. And the game ended after you had played a certain number of bird cards. There wasn't really a sense of progression to it. And so, but I saw that like what Elizabeth could do from the start is she could design cards that really, where the mechanisms match the theme of those individual birds, which isn't easy to do, to design a bunch of cards in that way. So I worked with her to develop that kind of that player mat, that action system where you have a sense of progression every time you play a bird, or every time you run your little bird engine. And so that was a combination of us working together on that, but it definitely didn't start out that way.
That's really cool.
Very cool.
I just think it's so beautiful. Like it looks so
my
perfect.
Gosh, the artwork in that game is amazing.
I don't even like think about what I'm doing with birds. I just clicked all the certain color eggs because they're pretty. Like, and then I end up like not winning, but like enjoying it once I realize, oh, I have this. I should do this now. But usually Laura and I just collect all the pretty eggs.
Like we were talking just a little bit ago, it's one of the few games where we've played where we aren't battling each other or I wouldn't say yelling. We don't really yell at each other, but we do get some barbs in at each other.
We're actually giving it away because you mentioned it's a good couples game. So like we're doing a giveaway for Games Overboard. And inside,
we're making the drawing tonight. So
Wingspan, there it is.
By the time this airs, it'll be 2 weeks ago.
So someone already have won that board.
Yeah, someone has already probably has it in their house by the time this airs.
Right.
But so
we're marketing as a couples game because you don't fight.
Yeah.
It does play well as a couples
fight. I totally agree. A lot.
Not in Wingspan.
Well,
do we fight?
As you're saying, the most yelling that you had was at yourself for making boneheaded moves.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Which just still makes me giggle.
That's the story of my life with any board game, though.
Wow. Yeah.
So getting into Kickstarter and all that. Yeah. So one of your mantras is no Kickstarter exclusives. And I want to say that with some games you did have them, but you just offer them now in your store. For first-time designers, a lot of them are like, we need people like we need butts in the seats to use a movie term, we need people to get in there. Like, so what do you say about the people who like they're offering Kickstarter exclusives because they kind of have to compete in that kind of market, and they may not have the money for it later or something? Like, is there another option that they might have available to them?
It's a good question. And you're right. Like, everyone only gets one first chance to make that game or make that whatever they're really passionate about. And the option that I think is just equally as good, but is better for the long term for any game, is to make them promos that you can that are included for free with the campaign. So whether it's a stretch goal unlocked thing or something you include from day one, make it a special promo that you include, but make it a promo instead of an exclusive, so that you can, if people want it afterward, you can sell it afterward on your website or at conventions and whatnot. I think, and oftentimes I think that's how people refer to exclusives now, Kickstarter exclusives. That's what they mean when they say that. But to me, it takes kind of the fear of missing out of it.
Yeah.
It gives people the option of buying it later. And the thing that I think creators will find is, if you make something awesome that people want after the campaign, you will want to share that with more people. Like, you want to share whatever the metal coins are that you made. Like, if a lot of people want them, you will want to make more of them. And if you've limited yourself by that exclusive, which I did early on, as you said, I kind of avoided it on most of the really big things, but there were a few things that were exclusive that I think I've avoided making completely ever since then. But once I experienced that and realized I had made something that more people wanted, I stopped doing that, because I just wanted to be able to make it for everybody.
Yeah,
I wish all companies thought that way.
Absolutely.
There's one Kickstarter exclusive that's killing me that I can't get my hands on, because it's based on one of my favorite short stories, and I just can't get it. And it's a big company; they can afford to make extras, and they just won't. But anyways, another question I had for you, leaning on Kickstarter and all again, is how because you don't do Kickstarter, and I don't see you like in social media outside of YouTube and things like that, like in terms of ads. So how do you get the word out for games? Because that's an issue that our first time designers are getting, is how, you know, what's the best place that you have found to market? How do you do your marketing?
Pretty much all of my marketing is based on, well, I guess there's two sides of it. Part of it is that we have a new newsletter that a lot of people subscribe to. And so if I have a new product that I want to share with people, I just put it out there on the newsletter. That is something that new creators don't have typically, unless they've used those ads, unless they've built up that newsletter subscription through some other form of content. But the main side of it that I do is I try to create content that I think people are interested in, that might add value to them, whether it's the YouTube videos or the blog posts. On Instagram, I mostly post about other people's games because I just like to talk about games. And so I put that in the category of kind of like goodwill marketing, where I'm sharing my passion for something that I think other gamers are passionate about. And every now and then I throw in something about one of our games that people can pay attention to if they want to. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It takes time and it feels right to me. But for a new creator, I understand that like they might only have a few months to get that interest going, and their ads are pretty good at that.
Yeah.
I thought you had a question earlier.
Do you?
I always have questions, but no one can answer them. No, continue.
So, oh my gosh.
I love you so much, Dan.
Yep. We keep him around for a reason. I'm not sure what.
I'm entertaining.
So what kind of thinking back to viticulture and your early Kickstarters, what kind of hurdles did you really experience that like you had to overcome and that, you know, surprised you?
I think especially in the early days, I underestimated the importance of blind playtesting. Like viticulture, I play tested it so much locally, just me and my friends play testing it, my co-founder play testing it, but we really did very little of blind play testing, which is when you share the files for a game with other people and you're not there, you're asking them questions, you're asking them to kind of like fill out a form and things like that. And that goes, I think, a long way to improving a game, making the cards more clear, more interesting to play, making the rules clear. And so that was something that I definitely learned with viticulture, and then implemented it with Euphoria during the second campaign that I ran. So, would you recommend then for something like now that tabletop simulator is a thing, like for designers to post their games on there for people to try out to get like ideas? Yeah, TTS and Tabletopia, I think, are great platforms for putting games out there for people to try out. I still prefer to play test on the tabletop. I think the experience is like it's easier for me to actually, shuffle a deck of cards or hold my own hand of cards, and
just to see the board
real
and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's why we play board games, at least for me. Yeah,
same here. Well, I do enjoy Board Game Arena. What was that, Sean?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that like when we do our board game reviews, I know that we spend a lot of time. I'm very particular about the texture of like things. Because PJ started making me think about textures of things.
You're welcome.
So now I can't like get out of my head. So it's nice to play the game to see like what the texture is and like, is it fussy? Is it not fussy?
You
yell at me for bumping.
I know. Sorry, he's good looking and he's sweet. He gives things, he's just a nice guy. So I gotta.
I know. I think he and I are gelling quite well.
Happy Valentine's Day.
So,
do any of you play? Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, you finish. Yeah.
Do any of you ever play? Like I found during the pandemic, I started playing games on Board Game Arena every other week, and I just kept it going after that because I can play. I have like a weekly game night with people who aren't in St. Louis now. Did you all ever get into playing any games online, or is it
Tabletop Simulator?
Yeah.
When I backed Gloomhaven was my first ever Kickstarter. I backed the second printing because I missed the first one, and so they released like, I think it was monthly or weekly, like scenarios you could go through. And so I did that so I could learn the rules and everything. And then when he moved out to California, I taught him Gloomhaven over Tabletop Simulator as well.
Yeah, that was my first experience with it.
Yeah. I played a couple other games here and there. I taught myself Dead of Winter that way too, before I bought the game.
We gotta do that one again.
That's the zombie with the dog, right?
Yes.
I love that one. Save the dog.
I love that game, but it fell flat with everyone else we play with. We've only played it once.
I played Scrabble along with my friend Maria, actually, all through quarantine.
Okay.
we got so into it. We actually had we made big accounts. I shouldn't say that, but we actually had 3 games going at one time just to see who would win. we got really into Scrabble. It was cutthroat.
Yeah.
Do you have any games where when you play you just think this game is just genius from base to bottom to top, it's just pure genius?
Oh yeah. There's so many games like that.
Which if you had Desert Island moment, if you had to take 3 games with you, what do you think you can narrow down? I don't know if I could.
I got mine. I got mine already.
Yeah, yours already. I see one behind you. I love Dune Imperium.
Oh yes.
And that's one, not only do I love it, but I have tried to design deck building games, and it's not as easy as it looks, really, because there's that standard deck building format, but to do something special with deck building, like Paul did with Dune Imperium, is very difficult. And so I appreciate the game as a designer, and I also just love to play it.
Yeah, that is incredible. Deck building is probably my favorite genre. I love it. It's
probably one of the easier ones to learn. Of course, almost every game has its own variations on the rules and everything, but the core gameplay is super simple. We also have one of my games is actually over there, which is the Legendary Encounters Alien edition, which is what he bought for me for my birthday one year, and he has the Predator pack.
Yes,
nice. Now
eventually we're going to combine them. I was
going to say we got to get ballsy and put them both together and see how fast we lose this.
Table flips down here in the basement. It's fine. So my question is, because we're teachers, about the games that you've made or helped produce and print, which one would you suggest you bring into a tabletop game, or you bring into your my gifted kids, for example, out of your group of games that would really get them invested and interested in board gaming?
I think so the one I most often recommend to classrooms, actually there are a couple. Can I give a few answers?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Quick answers. So I think that are Between Two games. Have you played Between Two Cities or Between Two Castles?
I have not yet.
They're interesting in that it's a competitive game. You're trying to win by yourself, but you have to partner with the player on your left and the player on your right to build either castles or cities, depending on the game. And so it's really good for encouraging communication between people. So I like that for communication. Rolling Realms, I think, is great for the classroom because it can easily be tied with an assignment to the students. In Rolling Realms, there are a bunch of different realms based on different games. This week, I'll be playing the Libertalia realm. I'll be playing an Architects of the West Kingdom realm and a Scythe realm. And so it's a distilled version of a much bigger game on a single card. And so it's a good challenge for kids to say, okay, now that you know Rolling Realms, take a game that you know and distill it down to a realm. It's a good assignment. And the last one I would say is Wingspan, just because Wingspan is so tied to STEM. It's just a good, it can be an educational game if you want it to be.
My gifted kids will like all those.
Yeah.
Definitely. The thing we recorded this, so I can go back and write it down.
Yep.
Okay. If I run Desert Island, Betrayal
House on the Hill,
with all the extras, because gotta.
Yep.
Uno, because I want to see how long it takes to for Dan to throw one of us in the ocean.
Not very long.
Uno destroys friendships, and I would bring Dex Dixon when it's finished, because I feel that would last us a lifetime, because there's so many crazy stories that come from that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So shout out to Steve.
I hope that Kickstarter.
Me too.
I really do hope it goes through.
Yeah.
But again, that's why we were doing this. It was his idea, was to make sure people get their names out there, get their games out there, and explain it.
Yeah. And with that, you have a game coming soon in July.
I do. Yeah. I have it right next to me. Expeditions. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. So I'm
going
to be completely honest with you. PJ told me that you were coming up with a sequel to Scythe, and I freaked out. I was like, what? Yeah, it's got this. I want it now. When does it come out? We need this.
So what made you come to this decision that it was time to return to that world?
It was a couple of years ago. It was 3 years ago, and it had been a little while since I designed anything for Scythe. We kind of closed Scythe with the Rise to Fenris, and then a few other accessories to come after that, and little expansions. Yeah. And Jakob kept creating art, though, because Jakob still loves this world, and he's just a great artist. So he's creating random art here and there.
Absolutely.
And I follow him on Instagram, and we chat every now and then. And I just started getting some ideas for it. I was like, what happens after this? What happens after the events of Scythe? But I didn't want to do another Scythe expansion. I didn't want to just redesign Scythe. I wanted to create something else, something different and unique in that world.
Yeah.
And so we just started spitballing ideas. And now there will be a game in July.
Oh,
So
that's
cool.
awesome. I'm very excited. And we were talking about
It's your
this.
birthday month.
It is my birthday month.
Yay.
And the thing that we were talking about is this is really exciting just as a board game in general, because it's not very often that you see a board game gets a sequel. Normally it's just a one and done type of thing. And then you get, hey, from the creators of this, it's a similar game, but it's completely different. But here you've got not an expansion, like a complete follow-up with new story elements and new details and things that, like I said, you don't see in this kind of industry. And that's really, really neat to see how your world can expand so large. And I think the world that you guys created is just fantastic.
So how does it feel? How's it feel when you make a game like this and you're like, all right, we're releasing in a couple months, and it's already in production and it'll be here soon. So like, how does that experience differ from like when you were making Kickstarters and stuff like that? Like, just jumping right into production and retail.
It's what we've done for the last few years, and so I'm kind of used to it at this point.
Yeah.
But I like it a lot. I still like the feedback. Like with Expeditions, we still had a little bit of time to make alterations to the rule book in particular. Okay. And I'm glad actually that we announced it a little bit earlier than we have done for the last few games, because people did have some good feedback for the rule book. So that was helpful, but it felt like a collaboration there rather than a lot of people on the internet just throwing stuff at you for like a month on Kickstarter, which can be really intense, especially when you've already put a lot of time and passion into this thing. And so this was a nice balance, right? I know the game is finished, but there were just some little incremental things that we could improve about the rule book.
Yeah.
And it's nice knowing that people don't have to wait a long time. I think with Kickstarter, it feels so uncertain now. I've stopped even paying attention. Like if the game shows up, I'm excited to have it at my doorstep. But with this, like I know I can say with confidence that we are delivering this to people in July.
Yeah.
Whereas with Kickstarter, it's not
you don't have to write weekly updates and things like that too.
Right.
Yeah.
It must feel so nice to be established, to not have that fear that other Kickstarters have,
Right. Or that even that reliance on continually updating everybody on, hey, I just did this.
This is what we're doing now.
Hey, don't forget about the game. It's coming up. There's this.
We'll still do a little bit of that, I think, but not much.
With Scythe in general, that one was based around the artwork. Like the artwork started and then you built a game off it, correct? How many games, or have there ever been any other games where it started with the artwork, or do you start with the mechanisms? What usually comes first?
Yeah, definitely depends heavily on the game. You're right. Scythe started with the artwork. Red Rising started with a book series. So that I hadn't done that before. Libertalia, one of our most recent games, started with another game, the earlier version of Libertalia that from 10 years ago.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then there are games like Charterstone right behind you there that actually evolved quite a bit. Like it came from an idea that I had that was unrelated to art, or I made my own world for it. But once Mr. Cuddington, which is a husband-wife pair of artists, once they got involved and I started to see their art actually changed the game. It helped build the world and change what I wanted to put into that
That's
world.
Pretty cool.
So I really like working with artists while the game design is still in flux.
Yeah, it really influences the game. Yeah, I love the artwork in Charterstone. They're pretty incredible. Style. Yeah.
It's once I didn't believe. I was surprised that they are the same group, because like the artwork for all of your stuff is so different. I know that you work with different people, but
so you mentioned earlier, you talked about like how a lot of your games are like medium weight Euros, things like that. Have you ever had any ideas like rolling around for like a more story driven kind of game, similar to Rise of Fenris, how that had like a story to it, but or something even just more Ameritrashy, like Betrayal House on the Hill?
Hey, you call it trash, I call it art.
Have you ever like rolled that idea around, or are you definitely more of like the reduction of luck and more about planning your turns and everything like that? I
do like a fairly high amount of player agency in games.
Yeah.
I'm okay with luck, but I like it when it's input randomness. Like when you're rolling the dice, if you're rolling the dice first and then making a decision based off that versus rolling the dice and then mitigating that. Although there are games that do that well. Betrayal actually does that well, I think, sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
There's not a lot of dice mitigation really in that. But
yeah, sometimes that game can get pretty broken.
Yeah.
Only if you're cheating. I mean,
we're playing Betrayal Legacy right now, actually. Have you guys played that?
oh,
We're
yeah.
about halfway through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where we are.
nice. Yeah. I love that
Thanks.
game. We need to finish it.
It's
We really
interesting
do.
to see like how the whole house evolves because of that. And
Oh,
how everyone can
yeah.
have very different, endings because of how they go.
Yeah, because like we have
Yeah.
played the first one to death, and so the collapsed room is one of the more iconic rooms in that. And then like minor spoiler, I guess, for that, but like there's a possibility that you can make the collapsed room in Legacy.
Mhm.
I don't know if you did
It's
or
kinda
not in
cool.
yours, but we did.
Whoops.
So I love how like all ties in together, like with the original edition of the game and everything.
Yeah,
It's
I
genius. I
agree.
love it.
Yeah. Oh, and also about story games. I am working on a game that has a lot more narrative than my previous games do.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one
Yeah.
of your YouTube videos was like your favorite story-driven games and things like that. And as soon as I saw the title, I'm like, yeah, he doesn't really do that too much, does he? so that was a question I was very intrigued to have answered for sure.
Yeah. It definitely won't be on the level of Sleeping Gods, where there's long paragraphs of text, which I do like. I think
it's fantastic.
It's a wonderful game. Yeah, I agree. But it will have a fair amount of text in it compared to other games.
Yeah, I just got that like a week ago or two weeks ago. Yeah. So I'm only like I played it for an hour probably, and it's amazing. Just after an hour, I see exactly where the game is going and what they're trying to accomplish, and it's fantastic. I love it.
It's an impressive feat.
All his board games over here on this side too, and the ones that are upstairs.
Yeah, that's all the games that like we don't play as often though.
Well,
like this is the ones that hit the table more often.
These are the stacked,
and these are the stackable ones, the thicker ones, the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a nice
one game we never play is Scooby-Doo Betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So you don't design
trash game. That's trash.
I know you don't design games where there is like reverse momentum. You always want forward movement, things like that. Not a fan of designing games with like take that cards, things like that. How about playing those kind of games though? Are you ever in the mood for like just dumping all these horrible cards on a friend?
A game of pure spite.
Uno.
I see Skull behind you there. Skull is in that category.
That's a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, if they're shorter games, there are games in that category that I really enjoy. But it usually needs to be pretty short.
That's something like for me as like someone who will probably never design a game because I just have no ideas rolling around there. So I'd like to know, like, for a designer who doesn't design those kind of games, like, do you like playing them too?
You design really good D&D campaigns, though.
Kinda like I homebrewed a campaign, but it's literally just based off a book series, and so like none of it's really original per se. It's just taking what I love and like throwing all my friends into it.
That's why I still want your help finishing this one I'm working on.
Yep. So he has one going on.
I don't know
right
if he
now.
plays D&D. Let's not nerd out too much.
But if you like,
I never have. I need to.
Oh, really?
I need to play it. Yeah.
It's fun.
I need to find a good short campaign of it to play, like either 1 to 3 sessions. I've heard the people play, some campaigns that last years. I don't have time to do years of a campaign, but a short.
I agree. That's how with my tabletop club, because we only meet for like an hour and a half at a time, so it has to be in really short bursts and everything, and like little micro campaigns. So it's the same kind of deal there for sure.
We did the same thing with Jack when he ran his first campaign years ago. And I was like, yeah, we'll try it out. And then I fell in love with my character. I'm like, we got to keep going. Like, sorry, this person cannot die. So you say 3 short episodes, but no, it's going to be like a year. 2 years.
You'll get hooked.
Yep. Especially if you love like just telling a collaborative story around the table and things like that, because that's really what is my favorite way to pitch it to people. I'm like, have you seen Whose Lines Are They Anyway? I'm like, it's that with dice, pretty much. And where in improv it's everything is yes, you roll die and that will tell you if it's yes or no, and then you just play off it from there.
Right. I'm just thinking of our current campaign. If you were to listen to Danger and Dice, how your character is just I'm going to attack. I rolled a 1.
Nope.
No.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, if you want to get into it with more familiar characters, there's also an easier rule set called Mutants and Masterminds that was designed in the 80s. One of my favorite things that I play with a group of friends online is it's the DC universe. So you get to play as heroes or villains, and those are very short campaigns if you go by the book. Like probably done in 1 or 2 sessions.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, I'd definitely say look those up.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I love the superhero theme.
Oh, me too. I always played
Batman.
Yeah.
I don't think about it as Batman. Like,
Yeah, I don't think. And
play
it's funny because when we start the game, we're just like, well, we know what that is.
Yeah, just move on. What if I wanted to be Batman?
You could be.
No, you're supposed to just go, I'm Batman.
Could be Batgirl. I mean,
You had a chance to use
I know I had the chance, but I'm not taking that away from Michael Keaton.
Wait,
I'm
we need
Batman.
to wrap this up. You're going to give us way more time than we offered.
Yeah,
so.
he did. That's fantastic.
So thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
my pleasure.
If you don't say goodbye, we'll just keep talking
We
forever.
will. Because
Yeah, we're always so appreciative, whether you're a first-time designer or someone like Jamey Stegmaier, coming on the show. Who we are just.
Voice, you sound so excited.
I'm so excited right now. So, seriously, we are extremely grateful for having you.
Oh, definitely.
On here.
I really appreciate the invitation, and I like that you're highlighting newer designers as well. I think that's often overlooked by interviewers. So it's awesome that you're doing that. Yeah.
What advice, other than like looking at your Kickstarter lessons from Kickstarter blog, what like one big piece of advice would you have for them? Do you think?
That was going to be my closing question. High five.
Yeah. Teamwork.
So for a new designer, what would I suggest? I mean, you've actually touched upon it a little bit with your question about Take That games. I think I've learned so much by playing games that I didn't expect to like. And so stepping outside my own genre and playing a really wide variety of games, I've discovered some of my favorite games that way. I've also discovered some games that I didn't like, but I learned from them too. I learned what I didn't like and what I didn't want to put in my game. So for any up and coming new designer, that would be by far my top recommendation, to play a lot of games, including those that you don't expect to like.
I think that's fantastic. I love it.
They tell me all the time, and I go, "No, play with Dan."
So you'll like Gloomhaven, I swear it. You'll like Scythe too.
I know, it's just the boxes scare me. No, Scythe I leave for you and Owen and Dan, because you guys are so cute together when you play it.
So before, one thing we always offer our guests is we record every Friday at 7:30 Eastern. You are always welcome. If you play a game like, man, I wish I could talk to someone about this game, like, let us know. Send us an email beforehand, and we'll cut out like a 15-minute segment. Have you on. Cool. We'd love to have you back. You are just absolutely delightful.
Okay, calm down.
No.
Maybe when we both finish our betrayal campaigns, I can pop on and we can talk about betrayal.
That would give us a reason to get back into it then.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you all.
Good luck on your release for Expeditions. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that myself.
2 copies, one for Dan, one for PJ.
Yeah, birthday present.
Nice.
I want to get the Ironclad edition. It's metal.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, geez, I'll put in some extra money just for that.
We'll put in the anyway. So thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
You made my Valentine's Day gift much easier this year.
All right.
It was wonderful to meet all of you. Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
let me know when this goes live, and I'm going to go find those old episodes so I can learn about your haunted house.
Definitely,
awesome.
Yeah.
And if you could, just tell Megan she did a great job.
I will. I'll let her know right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's probably tapping her foot going,
I'm very happily married, but yeah, just tell her that I approve.
Okay.
Take care.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.